It's no secret that challenging behavior from our kids can lead us into feelings of overwhelm when we're not sure of what to do. And whether you're a parent or not, as educators, all children are our children. So my guest today is a parent coach, and we unpack the layers of parenting, which is a journey where I am constantly reminded of this confronting truth. Our children mirror our unhealed wounds. Oof. We dig deep into how to uncover our own triggers that are rooted in our own unmet needs and unprocessed emotions, which becomes an empowering tool to use as we move forward. So as you listen today, we'll discover a world where compassion and understanding are truly the cornerstones of what we do as parental figures for our kids. Are you caught in the whirlwind of overwhelming responsibilities? And does the very thought of Monday morning send chills down your spine? Well, it's time to toss those feelings out the window. Welcome to Season 3 of the Take Notes podcast, where you get to make yourself the priority in order to show up as your best self. I'm your host, Jen Rafferty, former music teacher, emotional intelligence practitioner, mom of 2, and founder of Empowered Educator, and I've been where you are. In this season, we're not just talking about surviving, we are diving deep into thriving. Are you ready to take the lead in your life? Well, let's do this. Hello, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Take Notes. I cannot wait to start this conversation. I am talking with Synthia Praglin, who is a parent coach, and I can't wait for all of the things we're going to talk about today. So first of all, thank you so much for being here and having this conversation with me.
Thank you. It's a wonderful opportunity. I appreciate you reaching out.
Yes, absolutely. This is an important conversation to have. So before we really dive into some of the juicy parts of what we're going to talk about today can you explain what is parent coaching and why is it important?
Great question. So parent coaching is basically a modality and an opportunity for a parent to work with an experienced clinician. It might be a therapist, or it might simply be a parent coach who doesn't also have clinical skills. But what we do as parent coaches is help parents shift their perspective about their child and their child's behavior. If all we're looking at is the behavior, we tend to play whack-a-mole. If we're looking at what's beyond the behavior or underneath the behavior, then we have an opportunity to really build our connection and our bond with our child. Because we're not addressing behavior, we're addressing the feelings, we're addressing unmet needs. So parent coaching is an opportunity for a parent to learn some skills that they might not otherwise have, partly because maybe that wasn't the way they grew up. They grew up in a different parenting dynamic, a different environment where children were seen and not heard, where children were told to obey their parents with very little opportunity to express their feelings. So I use what I call a relational model, which is basically what kind of relationship do I want to have with my child? And so one of the first things that I will say to a parent or a couple is, I want you to imagine that your child's come home with a homework assignment. And the assignment is that they are supposed to write a paragraph about you. If you were actually to look and read this paragraph, what would you want to see written about yourself? And I think that that's an aha moment for parents, right? Because children are always watching, they're always observing, they're always taking in, and their self-image comes from how they see us reflected back in our eyes. And so if what they hear is that, oh, she's such a pain, she's such a brat, he's so spoiled, he's so manipulative, just giving me a hard time all the time, children internalize that. And then that's how they see themselves. So we as parents need to take a long, hard look at what are the messages we're giving our children about how we see them.
So powerful. Okay, there's a lot that I want to unpack here. So I want to start, though, with this one thing. You said that these are skills. I just want to be really honest for everyone that's listening. We don't know how to parent just because we had parents. Like we grow up and we do we get married or we don't get married and we have kids and we don't have kids or kids come into our lives for all sorts of reasons. And we're kind of just expected to figure it out. And coming to a place where you are asking for parent coaching, I think that there's a barrier there because of our ego and our ability to just set it down for a second and look at that big picture, like what you were describing, that these are skills, that there are so many different ways to do this. It doesn't have to be a struggle. You can actually enjoy your time as a parent, and it doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough. What it means is that you get to be a seeker of information and do something differently and learn more about yourself and your child to have a much deeper relationship with yourself and your child. That's a big thing, I think. I'm going to say for me, I think 10 years ago when I first had my son, 11 and a half years ago now, I don't know that I would have been open to having a parent coach because my ego would have said, well, what do you mean I need a parent coach? Do you come up against that?
100%. Because as you said, our approach to parenting is how we were parented, pretty much. And then we find ourselves with loggerheads in our kid, and we want them to do something that we want them to do. And they have their own opinions and they're going to fight us because we don't remember being that way as children. So we don't have that experiential. What we do have is how people responded to us when we were that way. So I often get parents will say, well, I need you to fix my kid. He's doing this and this. What can you do to fix my kid? I'm like, it's not my job. I'm not here to fix your kid. I'm here to help you figure out why you're being triggered by what your child is doing.
Yeah. So let's talk about that because that was the next piece that I wanted to go towards as we're diving in here. These triggers that we have, it's about us. So our kids do something, and whether you're a parent or whether you're a teacher, we know cognitively that behaviors are symptoms of other things underneath. But when we ourselves are triggered by a behavior, there isn't space or time for us to figure out what this child's going through. We're dealing with our own stuff right now, which is, I think to your point, this is really about the adult in the situation. So can you talk a little bit about navigating that space?
So it is about the adult because oftentimes what bothers us most about what our child is doing is that we were not permitted to do that as a child, right? So let's just use a very common example. The child is tantruming. If when you were a child, your tantrums were not okay to be had, you were told, stop crying, big boys don't cry, I'll give you something to cry about, it's not a crisis, all of those feelings were pushed down. You were basically told that your feelings weren't allowed. And so to be in the situation of having your child do that, like, no, that's not going to work because it's bringing up too much in you. And we tend to shut down in those moments, or we rage, the two ends of the spectrum, neither of which is helpful, not helpful to us, not helpful to our child. So in my work with parents, when an incident like that comes up, my first question is, what do you know about tantrums from your own life? Oh, nothing. Yeah, my parents are fine with my tantrum. 2 weeks later, let's talk about that tantrum again. What do you know about tantrums? I don't think I was allowed to have them. And so then it allows the parent to start to become more vulnerable and open up. And then, this is the short version. If the parent can become more understanding about their own experiences, they become more compassionate and empathic towards their child's experience. And that's the sweet spot. That's the absolute sweet spot. When a parent can say, wow, this is really hard for you. I get it. You're not ready to leave the park. You're having such a great time. You went down the slide today for the first time. You're so proud of yourself. I know, I get it. In that moment, that child's going to feel heard and seen and understood. And it's not mom's agenda that we need to go to the market. It's, I get it. And when parents get down on children's level, which is a whole other thing that parents think we can talk to children from 5'5", not that I'm 5'5", but if I were 5'5", like it doesn't work. Children are little people, and our expectations of their ability to make transitions and understand and approach life from a rational and logical standpoint is so misplaced. And so we have to be compassionate. There's a researcher, therapist, her name is Mona Delahook, and she talks about the iceberg. And so above the iceberg are all the things, the behaviors that we see, the screaming, the kicking, the yelling, the hitting. Below the iceberg are all the feelings that are needing to be met, needing to be expressed, that are not being met. And so that's what's informing the behavior on top. So if we can get parents to not pay attention to the behavior, I see you hit your sister. I wonder what's going on for you. What's making you feel like hitting your sister is the only way to get what you need? Maybe it's that mom's paying too much attention to the sister, or at least in the child's mind, mom is paying too much attention to the sister. But whatever it is, there's an unmet feeling or an unmet need. So again, back to the beginning of the question, helping parents become more understanding of their child's emotional state is what's going to both help the parent, because in that moment, and this is the other sweet spot, I think, for parents, we get to parent ourselves, reparent the little girl or the little boy in us who didn't get what we needed as a child. And yes, our parents did the best they could with what they had and all of that in a lot of cases. And in a lot of cases, not. A lot of kids who grow up in very toxic environments and come to parenting with a very blank template, except for what they experienced. And helping those parents see that there's another way. Children come into this world loving us and wanting to be loved. They don't have an agenda. Their agenda is only to feel connected. So I'm actually working really hard to take certain words out of parents' vocabularies, like the word tantrum. Immediately, it has a negative connotation. What if we replace tantrum with big feelings? We all know what big feelings feel like, even as adults. It doesn't necessarily have a negative impact, but tantrum does, right? Or she's just looking for attention. Another one that has a very negative connotation to it. What if we replace she's looking for attention with she's looking for connection?
Yeah, those small changes make a huge difference and take away the judgment, because that's part of what I know you talk a lot about too, is when we start to remove the blame and the judgment, when we start to get curious, then that's a game changer, because we're not labeling something as a tantrum or attention seeking. What we're doing is we're now getting curious. Okay, this young person has big feelings. What's going on? Or this young person is seeking connection. What kind of connection? How can I meet this child's needs? And those questions are going to be the ones that make some headway and get some traction to where you ultimately want to go, which is getting to a point where there's a homeostasis again, where everyone feels safe in their bodies and environments and their nervous system.
Right. And I love you using the word curious, because most parents are uncomfortable in the not knowing.
Yeah, let's talk more about that. 100%.
We need to know what's wrong because we can fix it. What if it doesn't need to be fixed? What if it just needs to be? And what if all the child is needing is a hug, right? So that curiosity and staying in the unknown is really uncomfortable for a lot of parents. Our job is to make it better, fix it. And a lot of times we just can't. And so there's a lot of tools that we could use in those moments where you just kind of mirror back what you're seeing or hearing. I can hear that sounds really hard for you. You don't have to have the answer. Or just physically touching the child. I wonder if what you need is just a hug, right? And then it just kind of, it dissipates. And then we can help the child regain their sense of regulation by borrowing our calm. I tell parents, an escalated parent cannot de-escalate an escalated child.
100%. Can we say that again, just for the people back?
An escalated parent cannot de-escalate an escalated child, right? That's all about our own reactivity, right? Which again, it's something triggers us. We need to be a little bit more intentional and mindful. Unless it's a crisis where your child is running into traffic, you can take 3 seconds to just go and breathe.
Yeah. So let's talk about that awareness, because that's an important part of this is when the triggers happen, being aware of the trigger is essential to doing any of the steps that we're talking about. So how do you walk parents through building that awareness muscle?
So backtrack, self-care. Number one, we are more likely to fly off the handle if we're not taking care of ourselves. Okay. And I know I've done it. I've said it. I'll continue to say, I don't have time. My kids are my priority. We need to make time, because if we are not taking care of ourselves, we are not going to be the parent we want to be. And our kids not going to get the parent they deserve to have. So self-care is one thing. So that, sort of the foundation. And then in those moments when you realize that you've said something that you just want to pull it back, or you behaved in a way that is not how you want to be, we call that the rupture. And we have to repair that. And we need to repair it in a timely manner. And it might not be in the same 30 seconds. It might be 5 minutes later where we say, you know what? That wasn't okay the way I acted. That wasn't okay what I said. Mommy's feeling very stressed out today. Mommy didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Not if you didn't do X, Y, Z, mommy wouldn't have done, because then that's blame. We need to be accountable for our behavior and not put it out on our kids. Our kids are being kids. A 3-year-old's been on the planet 900 and something days, right? Like when I say that to parents, they realize, oh yeah, they haven't been here that long. They don't know everything I know, right? They're operating from their lower brainstem, strictly emotions. I don't care if they've just repeated the theory of relativity to you 5 minutes ago, and now they're throwing themselves on the floor. It's the same child, but mostly it's the kid throwing themselves on the floor, right? So we need to be accountable for our own stuff, and we need to share that with our child or our partner for that matter. And to be able to say, I messed up and I'm going to try to do better, which also the other message there to our children, it's okay to mess up. It's okay not to do it perfectly, right? I mean, I feel like this is like an octopus with tentacles all over the place. Like we show one thing, we model something for our children, and then they know that it's okay, that we're going to love them even when they mess up. And then we come back and we reconnect and we regulate together, and then we can move on. These are the skills we want to give our children so that when they're out on their own without us, it's like the little mommy bird sitting on your shoulder saying, what would you do if mommy was here? How would you handle this situation? Because we've talked about this stuff over and over and over. I used to play the what if game with my son. What if so-and-so does this at school? What are some things that you can do? And that's building that muscle. And it's also, if parents would spend a little bit of time, you're going to pick your kid up at school, you're excited to see them, but you know that they're kind of grumpy when they get in the car. Okay, what if he's grumpy when I get in the car today? Like, not to take it personally. How can I help him kind of make that transition from school to the car, right? And what all that's about. And I think there needs to be a greater awareness of what it's like for children to be at school all day around a lot of kids, needing to hold it together, expectations about behavior, and then coming home to the safest space they know and just needing to let it out, right? And how parents can say, wow, must have been a hard day at school today because I see that you're having a hard time at home. Let's talk about it, right? There's a mismatch, I think, because parents have expectations about how their children should behave, how they were expected to behave when they were children, which they put on their children. And then we miss that important element, which is the compassion and the empathy.
Yeah. So there are two things I want to talk about here. I want to bring it back to something you said at the beginning, is that our kids are always watching us. And when we do make different choices, we are actively breaking old paradigms. And that is such important work, as teachers, as parents, as whatever you do in this world, if you have a connection with kids in any way, this is the most important work that you can be doing, not only because it's going to bring you closer to the children in your life, but because you are giving them an opportunity to see a different world than you were able to. And that's huge. That's how we make generational change. We break these old paradigms and we make room for something more robust and vibrant. And that's really what this is all about. And of course, your experience as well. I don't want to minimize that, but it's bigger than you. And I think is my point here. And I also want to say, because this is the second time we kind of hit on this thing, and I want to explore this a little bit, is when you start to make new choices with your kids, you do get to reparent yourself. And I would love for you to talk more about what that is like and why that's really important.
It is really important for anyone who we've all come from all different experiences. Some are better than others. Some were quite dysfunctional, quite toxic. And therapy and counseling is super important to help you understand that you're not to blame for any of those situations. Whoever was your caretaker had their own issues. You, as an adult, get to make different choices, and hopefully with a lot of support. Parenting, and I can speak for myself, it was a very triggering experience for me because I came from a background that was toxic and dysfunctional. And I remember thinking, it didn't affect me though. Like, I'm good. I'm going to be able to do this. And then I wasn't. Because there was just stuff. And a lot of it for me was the crying and the intensity, the tantrums, of which I have, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And I may not have a physical memory of it or conscious memory of it, but it's in there. And I would just be paralyzed and was unable to move forward and comfort my child because I was stuck. And what I was needing in that moment was somebody to put their arms around me and say, it's okay. And I didn't get that. And so it took a lot of years and a lot of hard work for me to be able to go. And I don't want to sound like the worst parent in the world because I wasn't. I was able to comfort my son, but it took a lot of emotional energy for me to do that, to know that I was doing that for him. And years of it finally trickling down that I could feel that sense of comfort in the moment as well. And so hugging him, I was hugging me. And, there were tears from me and tears flowing. And it was painful and beautiful at the same time. And when I finally understood what that was about, it made it easier moving forward. But initially, it was a really difficult thing. And it's interesting. When he was an infant, it was easy because I knew he was so dependent on me and that I had to do that for him. It was more when he became a toddler and a preschooler and early elementary school, where I think, again, my expectations were way higher than they should have been. And he still really needed me. Somebody needed to tell me he's only been on the planet 900 days, right? Because I was just like, why are you doing that? And I wasn't getting it. It was a mismatch. It was a total mismatch. But when I did, and I share this with parents when I work with them, I share my mommy fails because I think there's wonderful, valuable information in that. And that we're humans. We are humans and we're going to have bad days just like our kids are going to have bad days. And we need to give ourselves grace and we need to give our children grace for those. Yeah. So that reparenting, it makes me a better parent and it helps my child. It strengthens their resolve to do it differently as well. And then they come out feeling good about themselves.
Yeah. And that's really what we want.
Right. I mean, the mental health issues, which is a whole nother topic of children these days, is crazy. And these children just need to be seen and heard.
The tools to articulate that necessarily. And so what we see is behavior. And at the same time, like you said, there's this mismatch of us as the adults in these spaces are not getting our needs met and hadn't before. And since we can't give something we don't have, unless we're doing this inner work, there is always going to be that mismatch.
And the mismatch is going to exist. I mean, we actually know that we're only in sync with our kids 1/3 of the time. That's like a minute amount of time. But if that 1/3 is quality, then that's beautiful, right? If our children know that they can come to us with any question, come to us with any concern, and that we are going to be open and hold space for those feelings, right? It's like, no, it's not okay to beat your sister up, but yeah, it's okay to have those feelings because she took the toy out of your hand. But let's talk about the feelings that you're having and how can we make a better choice next time? What can we say? What can we do? Right? The only way we're going to change behavior is to acknowledge the feelings.
Absolutely. And so how does this work as they get older? My kids now are 9 and 11, and the conversations around feelings and behaviors are different, especially now that my oldest is he likes to identify as a preteen at this point. And we know hormones are raging and all the things. And so he's moving into these years that are different in navigating for me as a parent than they were, when he was 5. So how do you work with parents of older kids? Is it a similar process or are there different things that you address when there's kind of this dissonance that's happening?
So one of the things I suggest is finding something that you and your child enjoy doing together and making time for that. Because kids will find the group to hang out with and separate from their families if they're not getting what they need at home. And some of that is appropriate and developmentally appropriate. They need to separate a bit, but they also need to know that home is where the safety net is, so that if stuff is happening in the social group that they're not comfortable with, they need to be able to call and say. So I think this was before smartphone, when my son was in middle school, he had a phone. And he would call, or he could call and say, I need my gray sweatshirt. No questions asked. That was code for me. I'm done here. Not having a good time. Don't like what's going on. Please pick me up. And there were no questions asked. It only happened once. But you have to find a way to connect with your child. And so spending one-on-one time with each of your children is super important. I know we do this whole family thing. We all want to do this together and that together. And really our kids need us individually so they don't have to share us. They've been sharing us. The little one's been sharing his or her whole life, right? So it's really important to find that special one-on-one time doing something that you both enjoy or that your child enjoys, and you're going to do it because they enjoy it, right? So that's going to build that bond and that connection. And it's going to help during those tough times when, yes, hormones are raging and they're questioning whether or not they can share this with you. If children truly feel that we are an honest space, they will come to us and they will ask us stuff. I always tried to be the house where people gather. If you've got a pool, that's a really big draw, right? Or you've got a big playroom or something, that's a really big draw. But only if your child likes you enough to want to bring his friends there, right? Or driving carpool. Another great way to sort of get an idea of what's going on. And then you sort of leave the door open with your child for questions or anything you want to talk about, right? I also like, and these, you can find these on the internet, questions to have at the dinner table, right? If you could have dinner with anybody in history, who would it be? Kind of benign questions, but it gives you an insight into what are some things that your kids are interested in, what's important to them. And what it does do is it gets parents to stop talking about car insurance at dinner.
Yeah, because let's be honest, who wants to talk about that anyway?
Right. And your kids are like, I don't get this. And I don't feel like if dinner time is supposed to be family time, then make it family time. Right. So again, it's about reinforcing that bond and recognizing that you are in this for the long term. Because once your kids go off to college and you're lonely, you're going to want them to come back and visit you. And the only way to do that is to ensure that that relationship and the foundations for that relationship are being built now, that you are a safe space, that your child feels seen. This is Dan Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson, seen, feel, heard, and secure, right? In all of the definitions of that.
Yeah. Yeah, which all of their books are fantastic. So if you're interested in any of that, go check them out. I think I have most of them on my bookshelf.
I do too.
Yes. And you're right. It is a long game. And I think this is an important piece to remember here too, is that a day here and there, a week here and there feels like forever when you're in it. When the days are long, the years are fast. And so that moment in time that feels like forever really isn't.
And it's just a season.
Right. It's a season. That's a beautiful way of looking at this. And we can course correct whenever we need to. And it's all okay. And we have supports that you are not, as much as you might feel like you are alone in this, you are not, because there is community everywhere and people like you, Synthia, who are doing this work that is so important in this world. So I'm so glad that we are actually able to have this conversation on this platform. It is a message that I hope every parent hears. And so before we wrap up, I would love to ask you what I ask all of my guests, which is, what is your dream for the future of education?
Great question. In a general way, I'd love to see education tailored more towards what an individual child needs, rather than the rote testing kind of thing. Like, to me, I was never a great test taker. I could write a great paper, but standardized tests were not my friend. So those things I'd like to see less of, and more of really understanding what each individual child is about so that they can live their best lives. I'd also love to see more collaboration between parents and teachers. Parent-teacher conferences tend to be about, at least my recollection of, well, handwriting's a little sloppy. Like, who cares? Who cares about handwriting? Is my child's emotional needs being met in the classroom? Are my child's interests being met in the classroom? There's a project that they do in fourth grade, or they did in fourth grade at my son's school, that I thought was so interesting at the time and has since become amazing. So it was choose a person in history, and you had to dress up as this person and bring those 3-sided science boards and do a whole thing on this person. And my son decided, I don't know where this came from, to be Frank Lloyd Wright. Okay. Amazing architect. He's now entering his second year of architecture school. So that stuck with him. And it was that the whole project was not about your handwriting. It was about what's interesting to you. What do you want to do that is going to bring more joy to your life and interest to your life? And so I would love to see us get away from the standardized things and be more creative. I don't like to use the word progressive. I think that's kind of a weird word, but there's so much creativity and opportunity to do things that stimulate a child's interest. Writing the spelling words 10 times each with a sentence is not a way to stimulate interest. It's busy work. So yeah, I want it to look like a cooking class, I think is what I want it to look like. A little bit, these ingredients, put them together. And my cake may not look like the same as your cake, but does it taste good?
I love that. I think it's great. And, who doesn't like cake? I think that would make a more delicious world all around. And I so appreciate you sharing that dream, because it is really my hope when we share our dreams out loud that we get closer to them with everyone listening. So thank you for that. So this conversation has been fantastic. And I would love for you to share with people how they can get in touch with you and learn more about the work that you do.
Thank you. I'd love to. So a colleague and I have a coaching company business called Imperfect Parenting LA. And we'll have our website up and phone number, and easy to reach us through that.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. And so we'll make sure that those links for all of it is in the show notes, along with any Facebook or Instagram or social media that you have, so everyone can get in touch with you super easily. And I'm sure they will, because I would love to continue to have this conversation forever. It is so important. And I'm so grateful that you were able to share your time and your talents with me and with the Take Notes audience. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has been very fun. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. It's a passion of mine. I want to change the world. I want to change all the parents out there.
Amen. And you're doing it. You are actively doing it. And for the people who are listening right now too, you are sparking their interests, and we change one step at a time, one person at a time. And this is the path. So thank you. And thank you for listening. For those of you who are listening today, if you like today's episode, please make sure you leave a review, share with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'll see you next time on Take Notes. Incredible, right? Together, we can revolutionize the face of education. It's all possible, and it's all here for you right now. Let's keep the conversation going at Empowered Educator Faculty Room on Facebook.